So I've got a nice little smiley face here, and I'm going to turn that smiley face into a bit of a heart. Guten gardening, everybody. Well, today I'm beside one of my GreenStalks, and I'm actually going to show you a little GreenStalk hack. We talked about it a couple of years ago, but I wanted to give you an update and show you how you can support some of the bigger plants that are in your GreenStalk as they start to develop, so you don't get them falling over or really getting destroyed by storms and wind, etc. And I can tell you before I show you this hack that GreenStalk does sell a plant support system on their website, and so that is definitely a go-to if you want to buy directly from GreenStalk. This is a DIY hack though that requires 3 items. And the first item we need are these bamboo skewers, and you can find these at any local grocery store. I got these for $3.99 for 100 of them, so they're not all that expensive. The second thing we need is some thin wire. This is 16 gauge wire. It's 100 feet long. This is plenty thick enough to support our plants, and wire like this costs about $5. And the last thing I need is something to cut the wire with. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and show you our green beans, because these sweet potatoes aren't quite big enough yet to need support, but our green beans definitely are. Now, if you're wondering, this is a 5-tier original GreenStalk in the green color. So our green beans and a green stalk. And we have 3 different varieties of green beans, all bush beans growing in here. Our early contenders are here up top. Directly beneath those, we have some Gold Rush green beans, and they're just coming in. They haven't even changed to that golden color yet, but they'll be getting there soon. And the last 2 tiers have these red swan beans, these red swan bush beans. Here, I'll pull one of them off so you can see the beautiful color of the red swan here. And so some of the red swans are ready, some of the early contenders are ready, but I think the most important thing to note here is that the plants themselves are about 1 foot tall, and they get pretty top heavy, especially as there are more and more green beans, and these are going to be really plentiful. So what I want to do is be able to support these up against the GreenStalk so they're not hanging down. Earlier in this season, we had a really bad windstorm, and some of my plants, these weren't as tall of course, but some of the plants broke off because of the top heaviness of them. So I'm going to go ahead and add the supports. I'm going to have a bean first. That's delicious. Lots of bean energy here to get this in. All right, first thing we need are 2 of the bamboo skewers. And there are a couple of different ways that we can handle this, but I'm going to start by placing the 2 skewers at the very edge of 2 of these pockets here. So they're going to be pretty close to each other, just like so. I'm going to, especially if I have crops that are developing like my potatoes a little later, I want to avoid the main area here because I don't want to puncture anything, but I'm going to put them right down in here. And you can see if I push against these, that'll handle a good bit of weight. Then I'm going to take about 1 foot of my wire and snap it off. So a piece that's about 1 foot long. This isn't a precise science here. So I've got a nice little smiley face here, and I'm going to turn that smiley face into a bit of a heart. So it's almost going to look like a heart. Really simple, really easy way. And so what I've got here is the support for the plant that I'm trying to hold up. And here I've got something wrapped around that I can place over top of our wooden skewers. Now here's the key. As the plants get taller, this becomes really easy. So this is going to be another couple of inches taller, but I'm essentially going to just gather myself gently underneath here. So I've got all of the main plant. And then I'm going to place this, and actually I can, because the wire itself is so light, I can uncurl and curl just like this. Place right around here. Do the same thing, uncurl and curl it back. And now I've got the plant supported. Actually, let me give you a better shot of this. Now I have a plant fully supported. It's not going to move. It's not going anywhere. And there's still plenty of room for it to grow and develop. And I can do this around the entirety of our setup. So see how simple this is. We've got our 2 bamboo skewers here. We've got our piece of metal here. Now, typically the skewers will last an entire season, and you may get to, again, use them a second season, as long as they haven't broken or anything like that. The metal itself can last for quite a while. We have some metal here that has been around for a couple of seasons already. I mean, the metal itself is nice and malleable, and so I don't think you're going to have any problem reusing that. And if we do the math on this, if we're looking at 100 feet, this is 100 feet for a couple of dollars, and I'm talking about a foot of metal usage per pocket here, and we have a grand total on one of these originals of 30 pockets. And if we're using this on our leaf system, 7 tiers times 6 is 42. You can still get a couple of GreenStalks at least worth out of one of these strands. And similarly, the bamboo piece is the same thing. So it's an inexpensive way to get in here and set up a support for whatever taller plants you have growing in your GreenStalk. Let me show you what I mean by taking a look at the potatoes as well. So this is another original GreenStalk, and this is our purple, our blue and purple potatoes that are growing in here. Here's an example of one of our potato plants that's gotten a little bit taller. This is a purple Viking. This is an Adirondack blue that's not quite there yet in terms of height. And so I'm going to go ahead and provide some support to this one the same way. I'm going to take the 2 pockets right up above it, right at the edges again, especially for something like potatoes or other root crops. Again, I'll say it, you want to avoid anything in the middle where they're possibly growing. Same simple process, create the heart. Again, it's not a science, not an exact science. Take hold of your plant gently and place it around the skewers. Place the metal around the skewers. There you go. I'll bend it in so that they don't come loose. And there's a nice supported plant. Now, depending on how tall the plant gets, you might actually go a couple of tiers higher. So you can see here on my older daughter's pink GreenStalk, this is the basket weave leaf series. You can see how tall this dill has gotten. And so I can actually capture this dill a couple of tiers up so that it's nicely firmly held. Now, I'm not going to go at the very top for this one. I'm going to go, I think, not just this tier. I think I'm going to go right here, 2 tiers up, and grab this one. But again, we're talking about a very simple process that takes a minimal amount of time. And again, the last thing that you want is to have a whole bunch of time put into growing your plants and then have the wind come and knock it all down, knock it all over. I think that's the last thing any of us wants. Now, this one's actually captured right here on the side. It doesn't really matter that much. Again, we've got great support. I just don't want to damage the plant or anything like that. Now, one of the questions I'm sure you have as I head back over here to our green bean GreenStalk is, what do you do with the top tier for support? Well, this method provides a couple of inches of additional support for the top tier, because if you have the 2 skewers in each of the pockets for the lower tiers, you can actually run a wire then from this skewer. Again, these will be holding something from below once they're tall enough, but they'll be running a wire from this skewer around the pocket, providing exterior support to this skewer. I'll show you what I mean. All right, I got a piece of wire all set up, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it right up here by our leftmost skewer, and I'm going to wrap it right around to the other side of the skewer, just like so. And if I've sized it right, then the tension between these 2 skewers is going to hold this in place. If I want it to be more secure to make sure it stays up as high as possible, I can simply wrap one of the edges nice and tight around the skewer, and I can do the same thing to the other side, and that way it'll stay at the point I want it on the skewer, which is as high up as possible, just like so. Now, these skewers are 12 inches tall, so I'm giving myself about, again, with the depth that I've placed it down here, 3 or 4 inches additionally of support for this plant on the top tier. So I would argue this is a really inexpensive way to make sure your plants, whatever you're growing, whether it's beans, potatoes, any of the taller plants, your peppers, etc., eggplant, I mean, there's so many different things that we've grown in here, but I would argue that this is a good way to ensure that there's enough support that you're not going to lose your plants. And so I'm going to harvest a few more beans off of here. Now, I don't know if you would consider this to be the most ideal fix for this. I'd love to actually hear your opinion as to what you think or what your method for supporting your plants, your bigger plants is. This is one that we came up with, again, a couple of years ago. So we wanted to share it. We'd had somebody ask that question. Again, you can always go to GreenStalk. They do have a plant support system there. So you could purchase that, or you could try something out on your own. It's entirely up to you. All right, take a look at these beautiful beans. I would hate to lose our plants just as production gets ramping up, just as they get to full maturity. Yeah, that's the last thing I want. So find a way to support your plants. Let us know. And actually, I was thinking about this. This is probably something that could work in some form for other vertical garden setups. So let us know what you think. Oh, and don't forget, as always, we do have a coupon in the description for GreenStalks to get an additional $10 off any orders of $75 or more if you're interested in getting one of these vertical gardens as well. Well, we hope today's video was useful. This garden hack is helpful to you. If you did enjoy today's video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.